Okay, folks. Well, welcome to the Chesapeake Bay Journal newscast. This is the show where reporters from the Bay Journal wade into the biggest environmental news impacting the Bay and beyond. I'm your host, Jeremy Cox. Let's dive into it. Well, that music can only mean you've come to the right place. Welcome to the newscast here in July, the year of our Lord 2026. Again, I'm Jeremy Cox, and I'm joined by two of my intrepid colleagues. From all the way in Virginia, we have Lauren Hines-Acosta.
Hello.
And from the northern region, we'll say Baltimore area, we have Timothy Wheeler. Hello, Tim.
Howdy.
Before we wade into it, let's first hear from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Susan Shinkeldecker, CEO of Chesapeake Conservancy. We're the only watershed-wide organization focused on both land conservation and stream restoration to achieve a healthier Chesapeake Bay. Using groundbreaking data and technology, we help the conservation movement focus efforts where they will have the greatest impact. For more information, visit chesapeakeconservancy.org and follow us on social media. Thanks for caring about the Chesapeake Bay and for listening to Chesapeake Bay Journal Newscast.
Hey, well, welcome back. You've just heard a little bit from the Chesapeake Conservancy, and we just wanted to thank them very much for helping to make this show possible. Well, as we do every week, we're going to talk about the Bay's big wave. That's the story that's making the most waves, the most ripples, let's say, in the estuary. And Tim, we've got you on here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to at once scare us and put our minds to ease about Vibrio. So tell us what that is and why you decided to start looking into it now.
Well, Vibrios, and there are about 100 of them actually, are naturally occurring bacteria in coastal waters, and they're in the Chesapeake Bay. They actually perform an ecological role. They help recycle carbon and break down chitin, which is the hard shell-like material that is in crab shells and other
And
critters.
that's what your fingernails are made out of, right?
Uh, I,
Yeah,
I thought they were
we're
just
definitely we'll
nails.
fact check that later, but
Right.
it sounds like they're better
Maybe
than
yours are. I
mosquitoes.
don't know about mine. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but there are about a dozen species of Vibrios that can cause humans distress and even cause even serious life-threatening illness in some cases. This time of year, as we begin, July is the peak of Vibrio season. They tend to grow best in warm, brackish waters, which sounds like it describes the Chesapeake Bay to a T. The icing on top is that they're helped along by elevated levels of nutrients, which happens to be one of the bay's signature features
All right.
and its problem.
I'm gonna let you continue, but I have a quick fact check on myself. Similar sounding words. Fingernails are made not out of chitin, but out of keratin.
Mhm.
Ah,
So there we go.
okay.
Okay, so why do we care about Vibrio right now then?
Well, because the water temperatures in the bay are creeping up along as the air temperatures have shot up. Just checked today, and the water temperatures are in the high 60s, up to 70 and beyond, up the bay all the way as far as the Bay Bridge, and maybe a little beyond. And the other factor that makes them happy is moderate salinity, which means somewhere between 10 and 15 or 18 parts per thousand.
So
And when you look at
salinity being the saltiness of the water, right?
exactly the most common way that you're going to encounter a Vibrio, and you should hope that you never do, is if you eat a raw oyster or clam or an undercooked fish of some sort, or swallow water directly. You may pick up Vibrio in your GI system, and they can cause some pretty intense GI distress. All the terrible
Mm.
things that happen when you have like a stomach bug.
Like in a deadly way, or just in a I'm having a bad few days here?
For if you're lucky, it's a bad few days. A little bit like a norovirus, though maybe a little longer.
Oh,
But if you have, immune problems, if you have other underlying health conditions, this could put you in the hospital, and it does.
Now, is that the only way you can get sick?
No, the other option, and there's one species of Vibrio in particular that can enter your body through open wounds or cuts, or even scratches in your skin.
oh,
We talked to an elderly gent in Cambridge who scratched his forearm while he was tending his crab pots off his pier on the Choptank River. And by that night, his arm was swelled up and he was running a high fever.
oh my God.
Oh no.
It moves very rapidly. It can, and if it's not treated promptly, it can cost you a limb. It can cost you your life. There are a handful of people every year who die from Vibrio infections. Some of those from the GI version, but the others from the Vibrio vulnificus, it's called, that gets in your body through the skin. And where even if you survive it, you could be facing a real ordeal with loss of tissue, serious tissue, disfiguring wounds on your arms or legs that can take months to heal. There are some things that you can do to
Right.
to reduce the risk.
All
So
right, we're gonna hold people in. Go
there is
ahead.
some good news then. You're not just
Yes.
scaring me.
Listen, I eat raw oysters, okay? And I, wade in the bay, I paddle on the water. I go out with all kinds of people and I get water splashed on me. Sometimes it even splashes in my mouth. So look, you take risks every day. We're talking 8 deaths in all between Maryland and Virginia in
Oh,
2025.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to get to the what you can do part, but I'm going to hold folks in suspense for just a moment and ask, what's your reporting telling you about trends in Vibrio exposures and infections?
Yeah, I asked for data on Vibrio cases. This is an illness that is reportable to the health departments and to the federal government, and they track these data. But since
Naturally.
2018, we saw that the number of cases reported to the health departments from both states, there were more than 400 cases in all. And Maryland had more, as you can imagine, because they had more prime salinity and water temperature conditions,
mm,
and Virginia, the part closest to the ocean, fewer perhaps. And most of them are from eating shellfish of some sort or the other, or fish. But the numbers have grown considerably. Since 2018, the number of cases reported in Maryland has more than doubled from about 100 in 2018 to 261 last year. And the number in Virginia went from about 80 to 151.
So what's the sense you get from officials? Is this a case of, people are becoming more educated about it, maybe the, medical side and it's getting reported more, or is it a case of cases are actually going up?
It's both, is what the experts are saying. One reason that they changed the definition and the data are different, if you look farther back than that, is that they have developed a new diagnostic tool. Many of the cases that wind up in the hospital, the hospitals actually take tissue samples or culture your fluids and identify the specific species and strain even of Vibrio that is infecting the person. And those cases are just a fraction of the total number of cases. There are others that are listed as probable cases because they use a new diagnostic tool called the polymerase chain reaction test, same one that was used to test you for COVID. But nobody doubts the conditions have gradually improved for Vibrio proliferating out there. The bay's waters, if you look back over the last 30 years, have gradually warmed up. Not by a lot, but just by enough. And marine heat waves are a thing.
mm,
When you have
mm.
hot spells like we're coming up on, the water heats up, and that means the Vibrio are primed and more plentiful.
I still really love shrimp, so please tell me I can still eat shrimp and all the other yummy stuff in the water. So like, what's the best way like I can stay safe from this?
Well, buy it from a reputable establishment. Don't buy something that's being sold to you out of the back of a truck. That
Okay.
would be the first step.
How about the other pathway, which is through skin contact? Is it the usual rules apply about, not going into the water if you have an open wound or something like that?
Yeah, same thing applies. I went paddling once with a cut on my hand, but I put a plastic bag around my hand so that it wouldn't get wet. All right. So if you really, you know, must get out on the water, then cover it up.
A 10-cent solution can save your life.
Yeah, yeah. And if you are vulnerable, if you have underlying health conditions, and there's a whole raft of them, but diabetes is one, liver disease, and some other things like that. Or if you're old, unfortunately, that's one that all of us will get eventually. Uh,
Hopefully.
that's something you need to think about and maybe be a little bit more, take a little more precaution.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim, for that. And I'm excited to hear what's going on around the region. I'm sure you all are too. And let's start with Virginia. Lauren, what's going on?
I think it was yesterday, Virginia passed their state budget 2 days before a possible government shutdown. It
So
would
this
have
would have
been,
been June 29th. We don't know when you're listening to it, dear friends, but
yes.
that, yeah.
Yes, June 29th. Yesterday was when the Virginia state government passed their state budget. And it was a bit of a nail biter because if they hadn't passed it before tomorrow, so July 1st, we would have gone to the first government shutdown here. So it was a little spicy, but they passed it. And in the governor's amendments, just like a few days before the dust settled, Governor Spanberger snuck in $2 million for Menhaden research. And a lot of environmentalists have been fighting for these funds for, I'd say, the last 2 or 3 years. Menhaden are these fatty fish. They feed wildlife in the bay like osprey and striped bass, although that is one fish of many that those species eat. And there's the reduction fishery, who pulverizes them basically into fish meal and fish oil. But they're a really large industry compared to a lot of the anglers that catch the fish for to use as bait for like catching crab and other things.
So
Um,
why do environmentalists want this study so badly?
Yeah, so there seems to be kind of like a black box of information when it comes to like how is the population doing specifically in the Chesapeake Bay. Now, keep in mind this fish is a migratory fish, so it comes from, I believe, the ocean into the bay. But there's a lot of concern over localized depletion. And so there's real patchwork of data to really see if that's a problem here, because if there's not enough menhaden in the bay, maybe that's affecting osprey populations or the Maryland crabbers. And so
Right.
this study is supposed to answer that question.
Lauren, I have a question for you. The federal government, Congress
Yes.
had authorized 2.5 million for this study, and
Yeah.
now Virginia has approved what, 2 million more? Is
Yep.
that going to be enough? Is all that going to
Yep.
one study, or is it going to be divided among competing studies?
Well, that is a great question because there is a bit of competition, possibly collaboration.
Hmm,
So there is like two studies kind of floating out there. One, the Virginia Institute of Marine Science designed one back in 2023 to really answer this question.
right.
And then there's a research roadmap, quote unquote, hence my air quotes, that the reduction fishery, ocean harvesters slash omega protein, that they're very supportive of. And it is funded by NOAA. There's like been scientists on it, but that is more to like outline what are the questions we need to be answering and how do we do that. At the federal level, that money, that 2.5 million could go to either. So there is a bit of competition there, or they could work together to inform each other. So, what's going on in your part of the world? What's happening?
Yeah, I know I normally talk about Maryland, but I'm going to talk an area pretty darn close to Maryland, which is on the western shore of the Anacostia River. And so I start the story that you're going to see in the July issue. We're on this Carolina skiff with the Anacostia River Keeper, and we're rounding a curve on this around this little island in the middle of the lake. and you see this marshy shoreline here, and we're talking about, all of the different animals that you see here and different kinds of birds. And then I lay this bomb on you, so to speak, which is to
Oh,
say, this is probably not the way most people think about what's going to happen to this land because it's about to become the new stadium for the Washington Commanders football team.
oh,
And I think that was a good way to kind of bring people into the story because, you know, if you turn on ESPN, you can hear about this story, but no one, I think, is talking about it, or at least not too many outlets are talking about it from the standpoint of what it means for this river and for this island that I talked about at the beginning that is essential. If it was anywhere else, it would be a state park, but it's part of the district, so.
oh,
Kingman
interesting.
Island is a park and very, for an artificial island, it's kept as naturally and
Yeah.
managed as naturally as possible. So, a lot of things hang in the balance here with the stadium proposal moving forward.
So is the stadium like gonna wipe out the island, or like how big of an impact are we talking here?
Yeah, let's start with the worst case, right? No. So it is adjacent to the island, okay?
Okay.
So it's on the mainland portion where the old RFK Stadium used to be. And that stadium was there from 1961 until actually just earlier this year they finally tore it down.
Hmm.
So the island is proposed to kind of, to be on its own. It's not being directly developed. However, this proposal that the district and the commanders have put forward includes more access to the water. So there is proposed a walkway from the RFK side over to Kingman Island. And that's not something a lot of environmentalists are too keen on because that southern part of the island was recently the subject of a lot of invasive removal, and plants
Mhm.
and animals have come back, and there's important mating grounds and breeding grounds there. So they're kind of worried about loving it to death, as it
Hmm.
were. Yeah.
The biggest impression and environmental impact there was the parking lot and all the
Yeah.
runoff. What's happening with that with this new plan?
Absolutely. So it's kind of interesting because it could be in talking to the Riverkeeper and others, like this could be a net benefit, honestly, for the river because you're right, what was there was not exactly, this Eden by any circumstances, right? Surface parking lots, lots of impervious cover, nutrients, sediments, air pollution from the car exhaust, all that sort of thing. So the idea they're going to move some of that parking into two parking garages, so that's like less a surface area. There still will be some surface parking overall between the two types, about 8,000 spots for the stadium development alone. And then there's going to be ancillary, like down the road, mixed use developments around it with like, hotels and homes and retail and office space and that sort of thing. But the idea here is hopefully to bring in modern 21st century solutions like bioretention and more tree plantings and that sort of thing to end up with something that if you're going to have a football stadium that is better than what you had before anyway.
Hmm.
Sounds like the footprint could be much bigger, though, especially when you talk about those ancillary developments.
Right. So the entire property is about 180 acres. So the stadium is just honestly kind of not even half of that. So a lot will depend on what happens with the rest of that space. District is the developer along with the commanders. They've committed to 30% of that remaining open space.
Hmm.
Thanks for bringing that to us, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lauren, I understand
Uh,
that you got to get your feet wet, literally. Hopefully not too wet, but you got to visit one of the last places, one of only two in the bay that you can only reach by boat, or I guess by air, and are still inhabited. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I got to go to Tangier Island earlier this month in June. And it was pretty cool. It feels like kind of a rite of passage if you're covering the Chesapeake Bay, like you gotta go. And my feet didn't get wet, but there was some people on the boat over who did get like soaked from the spray.
Hmm.
But it's okay. I had my waterproof notebook and she seemed to be fine.
What was the draw there? Why'd you go out there?
Yeah, so I went with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation to join them with for this meeting they were hosting. So basically, a bunch of lawmakers, scientists, advocates came together to figure out ways to save Tangier Island from, well, sinking into the bay. So Tangier Island faces a lot of like environmental pressures from sea level rise to coastal erosion to actual subsidence is that it's sinking. So, and it's actually in a very particular quote unquote hotspot where sea level rise in the middle of the bay is increasing at a faster rate than like out in the ocean on the coast.
I visited Tangier Island years ago at the point of a particularly high tide. And when we stepped off the dock into knee-deep water and walked through water up the first block and a half into the
Wow.
town, that
Oh
was
my
a
gosh.
real
Yes.
eye-opener, if not a foot wetter, introduction to climate change and rising seas.
Well, thank you for taking us on that walk in your shoes, Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if any of these stories pique your interest, you're in luck because you can find them very easily. Just go to bayjournal.com and check it out. Everything's free there, no paywalls, nothing like that. Or you can also check us out in print paper. We have subscriptions available again for free, made possible from donors and grant makers. So if you go to our website, again, bayjournal.com. You look in that upper right-hand corner, there's a subscribe button. Just put in simple address and name information, and you're good to go. All right, and before we leave, I think you have something pretty outstanding for us, Lauren. We've got to do our little guessing game.
Yes, so I have two truths and a lie for y'all. So two bay truths and one bay lie, and you have to figure out which is the lie. So I have three statements for you.
Wait a minute.
So
Do we have to keep all three in our heads before deciding?
yes, so
That's
don't
hard for an old timer like me. All right, go ahead.
you can
It's
do
hard for
it.
anybody.
I can repeat them.
Okay.
Don't worry. So statement A is 800 documented islands have sunk in the Chesapeake Bay or have disappeared. Statement B is Cocahuesque. Wait, Cocahuesque. Cocahuesque was the Pamunkey Indian tribe's chief in 1677. I know. And C, statement C, snakehead or chana can survive out of the water for up to 4 days. Which one do you think is the
Okay,
one?
so we have number of islands that have sunk. We have the name of a Pamunkey tribe leader, and we have how long can Snakehead, aka Chesapeake Channa, survive out of water, being 4 days. Tim, I think you've got the inside track on there. Which one is the lie?
Well, I'm reasonably certain, let's say I can't be certain of anything anymore, that the number three, the 4 day survival of snakeheads is correct. They certainly can stay out of the water for a prolonged period of time.
Mhm.
Um, and I know there have been an incredible number of islands in the bay that have been lost, whether through erosion or whatever other process, many of them small and not inhabited, but others were. I have to confess, I know nothing about the name of the Pamunkey chief that Lauren mentioned. So, based on that, knowing a little bit about some things and nothing about one, I'll guess that number two is the lie, but I'm probably wrong. It's probably number
So
one.
you're going with the Pamunkey chief. That is a lie. I'm not going to pick that one solely because I feel like if she was coming up with a name of a chief, she would have picked something she could pronounce.
Well, you could be
Um,
right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
I'm
practiced.
I'm
yeah.
gonna go in the interest of time. I'm gonna keep the hemming and hawing to a minimum. I'm gonna say A is the lie. 800 islands have disappeared. I want to say it's more in the 300, range.
Okay. Yeah, you convinced me. I'll join you.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that even allowed? Lauren, can we get a ruling?
Final answer. Give me your final answer. Three, two, one.
A.
One. Yeah. A or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The first one.
Y'all are correct. A is wrong. So it's actually 400 to 500,
Okay.
according to a book I found.
Yeah, there's a good book on that. What is it called? The Disappearing Islands of the Chesapeake.
Yes.
That's usually my resource for those kinds of numbers, and it should be noted it wasn't just climate change and recent sea level rise. This has been happening since the last ice age. It's just only gotten a little faster, hasn't it? And maybe
Yeah.
Tangier will join in, maybe not.
Yeah.
Certainly hope
People
not, but
people may leave Tangier before it all disappears, for that matter.
Oh,
bragging rights to both of us, obviously.
good job,
Well,
you
mainly you.
guys. I
Yay.
know I got niche with the second one, but I just wanted to give her a shout out because she signed the Treaty of Middle Plantation, which was really, really important here in Virginia, and that was 1677.
And that's all the time we have for today, actually. So, the Chesapeake Bay Journal newscast is a production of the Chesapeake Bay Journal, the Bay region's premier source for independent environmental news. Please remember to subscribe at the Chesapeake Bay Journal newscast wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what we've heard, you can get even more journalism from the Bay Journal delivered to your mailbox or your inbox. You can sign up for a free subscription at our website, bayjournal.com. This series is co-produced by Lauren Hines-Acosta and myself, Jeremy Cox. Our executive editor is Laura Lutz. For advertising information, you can contact Jackie Kane by email at jkane@bayjournal.com. That's JCAINE@bayjournal.com. Thanks for listening. See you next month. Bye.
Bye.